Good morning and welcome to GM Tips. This is GM Rick coming at you from Sunday morning on the holiday weekend. I hope everybody has a great holiday, even if you don't have an Independence Day. For this time period, for whatever Independence Day that your country has, really enjoy it. I know that we like to politicize things in today's day and age. We want to make everything bad and demonize everything, and I'd just say enjoy the days while you got them. Uh, we're in a time right now that's probably better than most. That, in my opinion, could be a whole lot worse. So enjoy the wonderful times and family and people that are in your life, and make sure you enjoy a good GM tips this morning. So my topic this morning is on the whole Inner Sea Golarion campaign system and just talking about it. And you're going to notice I have no books. Why? Because I can talk pretty well Golarion, being that I use it almost exclusively for my players. Why is that? All my life, I have pretty well used pre-created campaigns that I drew up, with the exception in 3.5 of Faerun. I did try Faerun. I liked it somewhat. It's not a bad world. It's not a bad set of gods and goddesses. Honestly, it's kind of interesting. And if you like Faerun, if you like Sword Coast, if you like Baldur's Gate, you'll like the material, especially as a D&D player. It's not a bad system. It's not a bad campaign, and the countries are interesting and unique. Um, why do I like Inner Sea so much? Because the history intertwines really well. Unlike Faerun, and no offense to Faerun, the history was kind of disjointed. They went off on different parts of the world and kind of didn't really tie them together, in my mind, really cohesively. So it left a lot of holes and gaps for me. Why do I like the Inner Sea Golarion so much? Because they do tie it together. They go through and help you to understand how the history of everything came to evolve. And they've really done a good job of drilling down into each country and its history and matching it back to the main timeline, which I think in a lot of written material, that's sometimes the gotcha point in my mind, is that you got to tie the history really tight, and leave some room if you want for GMs and people to be creative and kind of do their own offshoot. But if not, if you're just going to have the players use your system, tie it together well. And so you'll hear Mini GM in the background. We're doing some watching of TV this morning, so she's going to be in the background a little bit. And then, okay, Bug, hang on real quick. Sorry, being a dad takes a lot of precedence from me. So at the end of it, I love how cohesively things tie together, and how in each of the adventure paths and campaign guides and area guides that you buy for the different countries, they all tie back into that timeline really well. Next, what else do I like about it? I like the gods and goddesses. To me, they're an interesting lot, and they've done a really good job of putting the majors and then the minors and then the off, what they call the dead gods, are the ones that aren't as active, and then the actual dead gods, and then the outer veil gods and goddesses. So you got your Cthulhu aspect, your star aspect, your creator kind of tech aspect. What they've done is they've taken kind of a part of Eberron and Faerun and meshed them together like this really well. And they did it in such a way that it is really unique in a lot of ways. Yes, some things are going to resemble others. And don't mind the little background. She's singing and having fun with the Mickey Mouse thing. Um, but for me, I really like that the gods and goddesses are very rich with history, and that they tied in Asmodeus really well, and they made him a deity versus a devil, head of the devil organization. He is both, but in some ways it's kind of neat how they tied it together, and how that the other gods and goddesses, good or evil, respect him for what he did to help save the world. And even though he was lawful evil, he helped to save the creation from Rovagug, the destroyer. And so I found that really interesting. And also I love how they took the Terraskew and several other really mythic creatures, and they were the spawn of Rovagug, the destroyer. So interesting stuff. And they've left a lot of the world undone. I believe they'll get around to it, and they put in little snippets with distant shores and some of the other material, but they've left a lot of it to your imagination. I did my own little Arcadia drawing for the what would be considered the Native Americas, and it's really interesting what you can do with the material. I think the countries themselves and the gods and the goddesses all kind of tie in really well. And certain realms have patron gods and goddesses that match up much more to their people than others. So there is some cases where, all the gods and goddesses aren't worshipped equal in every country. And I like that. That's one of the things I really love about the Pathfinder system is instead of just saying these are worshipped everywhere. No, no, not really. And some of them have more fond places. For instance, Abadar, god of law and civilization. He is actually a Garundi, and the Garundi are the darker skinned people. They would be your Africans, your in some cases Persian, uh, which the darker skinned Persian, more rich mocha skinned people. And I love that Abadar is seen that way. Now, he's seen many ways by many cultures, but he is specifically referred to as the cradle father of that area. And I really love that because it gives a lot of equal standing. And that's one thing I love about Paizo. Again, they really take the time to give a lot of equality to the different gods and goddesses for wherever they're put into. And so I like that. I also love how they give you the solar system. Boy, what a nice thing. So if you ever want to do a Spelljammer campaign or something like that, you have the solar system and little snippets on all the worlds. And I love that aspect of it. Get distant worlds, and you can really take off and take flight of taking your characters off of the world. And if you don't want to have everything based on Golarion, you can put it on Castrovel, or you can put it on oh Lord, I should remember all the different ones that are out there. Eox, the world of the dead. Love that because they're the dead people technology and liches. So you get so much richness that they've really done, and yet they left a lot open for you as the GM to work with. I love the fact that they do so many Pathfinder adventure paths. Some GMs may hate it. I really like it because what I do is, I'll be honest and frank with you, I take modules that they have created in adventure paths, and I will do my own side offshoot adventures, and I'll create my campaign around them. I don't do everything straight by the book, nor I think do they expect you to all the time. And that's the wonderful part about it is that I get to play things and take some of the creative ideas of someone else's and further create on them. For me, who's a dad, as you can hear with mini GM running in the background and my two older kids, I don't have time to spend countless hours poring over a campaign and making it my own. I did when I was single and back when in my early, teenage years and 20s, not anymore. And unfortunately, folks, that's the reality of my time schedule. And so for me, convenience comes into play. And I love the convenience of it. And I love the fact that they really do reach out and try to get the feedback of people for next ideas and things. And that they work in the creative community with Wayfinder and some of the other magazines that really tie into that world and giving people a third party ability to create for that world. It's really cool. And for me, I love the experience of being able to do that. I recently wrote and put some articles into, hopefully, Wayfinder. I submitted them. I crossed my fingers that they get published. But I really enjoy it. And I think for me, just the ability to take someone else's material and really create off of it fairly easy is really nice and it's refreshing. Also for me, I love the fact that they go through the calendars with you and all the other aspects. Now, other systems do the same, but they really tie it back into the gods and goddesses. So it's all revolving around the different holy days for these different religions. I love that they went and they created a world area in Rahadum that they reject the gods and goddesses. Oh, they know they exist. It's not a belief issue of, well, are there gods and goddesses? No, no, no. They know. They just don't want it. They've had enough of the terrors of holy wars and everything else that they're like, get out. We don't want you. We're not going to permit you, and we will fight against you. And we have a whole pure legion that will do it. To me, that's really cool. Again, I'm not anti-religious, but to incorporate that into a country, and when mom gets home, okay, sweetie, um, that's the wonderful part about all that. I really love is that they've done that and they've been creative. They have a whole realm devoted to Asmodeus and all his devils, and that's the Chelish Empire. After Erodin's fall, they turned into turmoil, and then arose a house that was diabolic, and they converted the whole nation. And yet there's inner rebellions going on and the seeds of inner rebellions. And there's two whole adventure paths devoted to this. Actually, three, if you look into the earlier adventure paths. So I really love that. I love how they do a lot of time in Varisha. Varisha is an interesting nation. It is a mix of the Chelish, the Taldorans, the elves that are in that area, and then you've got the Shonti barbarians with the Varishan wanderers. And it's a really interesting, it gives you a feel of the Americas where the conquerors came in and the conquered have to deal with the conquerors. And yet there's such a rich history in that nation that's there. And so it's really unique, something different. And there comes a cat. That's Cassie in the background. Uh, but I really like that richness that they do with Varisha, and that they really spend time at Sand Point. So when they start you out in those adventures, they really continue to bring you back to one place that you can really set your characters and players, and you can really base a lot out of. So if you like Varisha, Sand Point is richly developed to allow you to continue generation after generation of adventures through that area. It's not a Waterdeep because it's not as big of a city, but it is still a big city. So then there's other places. I like that they came up with a macabre country in Ustalav. Ustalav, again, Varishan people, some Taldorans, and it richly goes into a area like Transylvania or I'm trying to think of other areas. The Ukraine's, the Balkan, actually not the Ukraine, the Balkan countries. So the Balkans, Romania, Hungary. It's their version of it, and it's had a tumultuous history with liches, a lich king, which turned into a major scion for a goddess, as well as the Frankenstein aspect, as well as free, kind of a republic portion of it. It's an interesting just micmash of fun areas for your players to really play in, and you can do campaign after campaign, and they've given you lots of places that after you finish the Carrion Crown, which is the major campaign there, that they're going to do other things. They're going to do Strange Aeons out of there, which will be the H.P. Lovecraft kind of campaign with Call of Cthulhu. So I really love that they spend a lot of time camped in that area, and that the surrounding countries are also interesting. And Brevoy, Iobaria, and several other areas that are right there, Last Wall. So they have some really interesting places to go around there, and with rich history that really tie in well together. You got the River Kingdoms with Kingmaker, and they will allow your players to rise up from nothing to a king in the area. Now, albeit a minor king, but still a king. So that's, to me, very interesting that they do that. I love that they came up with a whole Orient, and Tianxia is just an interesting realm and continent, and that you can go over the crown of the world. They actually gave you the ability to go over the Arctic, where there was a lost civilization, and come out on the other side in Tianxia, which is the various nations. So take Southeast Asia, and that's all in that continent put over there. And so there's so many different Tiens that they allow a lot of richness, and they all mash it together in such a way that, again, these nations are an interesting place to explore. They even have a whole hobgoblin country that's run by a hobgoblin overcast with humans in there, and it's in that Asian culture and type of structure that they're almost samurai-like hobgoblins. Again, real rich. So I guess in saying this, and I've taken a little time to camp on these countries, They have really developed these in such a way that if you really have the creative mindset as a GM, you can go and take these anywhere. I had my players with Carrion Crown end up in Tiencia. How did that happen? That was never written into the module. No, it wasn't. Not even close. Not even close to the adventure path. And yet there they are in Tiencia. I also took the outer realms. So the different planes. I love the planes and how they organize these together in kind of a hemispherical circle that tie together. And I had the players go out to the boneyard where Pharasma, the goddess of the dead, is. And they got to meet Pharasma. They got to meet her upper hierarchy. And then they had to find their way back to the Carrion Crown. A lot of fun. So you really can take these places and tie them together to cohesively flow. And I think for me as a GM, that is so critical. If I'm going to use somebody's pre-written world and campaign, I want it to flow. I don't want to have to spend copious hours to make your material work. And I really love that about the Pathfinder team. I give a lot of huge props to James Jacobs and his bunch, and also to Jason Bowman and his team for just writing the general. They do the general books that are just Pathfinder, not necessarily tied to a campaign. But then you can take the two so easily and tie them together, or you can have them quite separate. So it's interesting how you can do that. I love also the really interesting areas for exploration. They have different types of genres. They Thanks, Daisy. My puppy. She's my little squealer. They basically, sorry for all your ears because I know that had to hurt. Um, they basically, hang on real quick. I know I'm chopping. Oh, sorry. The last 2 minute and a half. I wish I could chop it out of there. Between the dogs squealing. You got to meet Daisy. That's our little teacup. We also have a toy in Duke, and Daisy, when she gets fraidy, she will yelp like you've hit her with a rolled up newspaper. I don't know why. She's my little fraidy baby, but back to the material. Sorry. So for me, I think one of the things I really enjoy about the whole realm is they give you a lot of ability to play pirates, monster slayers, undead hunters, um, arcanists, technologists, um, barbarians, real easy. Several different realms you can play barbarians from. You can do green cults where you want to restore the world to its original form or keep things as it is. Old gods. They give you so much ability to integrate all these different types of campaigns in. You can take Green Ronin's Freeport and sub it really easily in for Port Peril in the uh, Isle of the Shackles, Isles of the or Shackle Isles. I'm sorry, Shackle Isles. I'm killing it. Shackle Isles. That you can do that really easy and still have the richness of the campaign for Skulls and Shackles. They give you a jungle area that you can go into with lost cities and civilizations. They give you a part of the continent they haven't even written up yet. Part of it that has celestials, a realm of celestials. Another one's a realm of Amazons. Another is a realm of lizard folk and snake folk. It just is fun what they do with the richness of it and how they're developing it as they go. So just keep in mind with this, there's a lot of creativity, a lot of things you can spawn off with. I know a lot of people have integrated it into D&D 5 just for the simple fact that the realms match up really well and the material's written really well, and all they have to do is convert it over. These realms are just great places to really get your players into. I think the other thing is that they've done specific deific spells. So they did a whole book on the deities and gave you spells that are specific to your deities. Now, again, some of these spells were hits, some of them were misses, but I love the fact that they devoted a whole thing to the gods and goddesses. And not just the gods and goddesses and the Pathians, but they also told you facts, how they worship, how their places look. There's holy days, the special helpers of these gods and goddesses. This is really integral when you're writing things as a GM. And then they did a whole thing on the races. Now, some people love the book, some people don't. I love it because they give you, again, even more clues on the different human races and other races. Now, yes, they should have spent a little more time camped on some of the offshoot races, the lesser common ones, and the really rare ones that they didn't. And thankfully, you got a lot of writers like Alex A. and some others with Every Man's Games that have taken some of those other races and really worked with them. But again, they took the time to do those things. And they continue to write the campaign material. Now, some people hate that because they say, oh, they're just making money. No, they're really developing the world so that you as a GM can work with the different parts of it. No, none of it's perfect, okay? But then there's great materials that come out like this. I love the Magic Tactics Toolbox. Definite home run on that one. I love the Heroes of the Streets. Kind of flares up things. I love that they did a whole thing on the occult realms. So you get the occult adventures. They gave you a thick book on the occult realms that you can go through, and it will show you where different ghosts and other things are, spirits that you can invoke as a spiritualist, or different things that are key to occultism that are in there. They did Realms of Intrigue, where they went through and did the same type of thing, where they give you where all these different intrigues are, like Galt and some of the other places they haven't really fleshed out, to give you a better understanding of where vigilantes would be and why. Again, I just love it as the richness of the whole thing. Now, some of you are going to disagree with me wholeheartedly. Some of you hate the campaign, and I understand that. Look, no one writing their own material is going to make it perfect to what you want it to be. Only you know as a GM what you want. And sometimes you're going to read material and go, well, that didn't make sense, or well, that's horrible. I would have done it this way. Fine. Modify it. Go back through and take their stuff and modify it. If you don't like it, fine, do your own campaign. I love that Kobold Press did their own campaign with Midgard and the Southlands. Think that's great. Love that Wright Publishing did some of theirs. Love that Purple Duck did some of theirs. I think it's great that all these people are able to build whole campaigns for you off of the material that is Pathfinder and Paizo. You don't see as much of that with D&D. And no offense to you 5e's, I'm going to be trying 5e myself real soon and playing to help a friend play test, hopefully. But they don't do near the campaign material. Now, fortunately, Kobold Press is taking advantage of things and is doing the Midgard and Southlands also for 5e, which will give you the same richness. Not everybody does that. Not everybody gives you the campaign material that is written for Pathfinder. And I love that there's so many different realms. Zeitgeist is another one that does stuff using the Pathfinder system. There's so many different places you can go with it. Pure Steam did their whole thing off of Pathfinder and the core rules. So there's something to be said about different campaigns, but I give huge props to the Inner Sea and Golarion. I will probably continue to use that material until I quit playing Pathfinder, very honestly. I'm a loyalist to it. I love how it's written. I've seen a lot of material. I started playing in the early 1980s, like 79, 80, is when I started playing. We didn't have this. We didn't have this convenience. Greyhawk was the first thing, and Greyhawk was all right. But I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a huge Greyhawk fan. I really didn't like it because it was, again, very disjointed in my mind. I just couldn't get my arms around the history of it. And then we went to Faerun, which, it was okay. It was better. Then we went to Eberron. Eberron was unique. It was more steampunky. And I kind of liked it, but then it went nowhere. It died off. And so for me, well, and then there was also Ghostwalk, another one. And there were some attempts that were done that, in just my mind, were okay attempts, but for me, just didn't do it. I got to say that the Inner Sea was the first campaign that I really fell in love with. And you can attest to it. If you talk to my fiance and look at my bookshelf, I probably got so much Paizo material. Paizo probably loves me. I am one of the hugest buyers of your material. And for those Paizo people that get to watch this, I have bought probably over close to 2.5 grand of your stuff because I like it that much. And keep up the great work. I want to continue to buy it for years to come. And I can't wait for Starfinders. And I think it's going to be really fun. And so I'm looking forward to just more and more of the material that comes out. But I'm going to say the campaign, give it a whirl. If you haven't really given it a try, read through the material. Yes, there's a lot of material, but once you get through it, once you understand it, it's easy for you to adapt it. It's easy for you to work with these different realms. It's easy for you to do crossovers where your players are bouncing around realm to realm and keep in mind the history. It's real easy to do. And it's one of the reasons I like Paizo so much with what they do material-wise. So I want to give you a dive into just the inner sea itself and into Golarion. I wanted to tell you some of the high points that I love the cohesiveness of the country. I love the timeline. I love the gods and goddesses and how they really integrate them and how they're not common in every country. That there are certain countries that have certain gods and goddesses that are devoted to their history, that are a key part of it. I love the fact that you can do the outer realms, like up in the stars with the distant worlds, and also with the Great Beyond, where you go off into the other realms. I forgot to mention the Underdark. I love the fact that the Darklands are in there and that they have 3 layers. I really like that. See, unlike the D&D where there's 1 layer of the Underdark, I love that there's 3. So you have different areas that are ruled by different creatures. I love that they put a lot in when it comes to the Cthulhu end of things. I like that they really went in and enriched each realm that they did and each adventure path that ties into it. I like that they give you key NPCs that are key to that realm. I like the fact that they will flesh them out later in adventure paths. So some of these cities and other places do get fleshed out at some point. The crown of the world and different continents like that, and I like that they're going to continue to build on that. So there's a whole host of reasons why I recommend this campaign system. And I hope you get the chance to look at it and try it. Again, these are my opinions. Take them for what they're worth. I know some of you, again, hate the material, and you'll look at my video and say, Rick, you're nuttier than a fruitcake. That's fine. I respect that. And I respect the fact that you stay away from the material and that you do your own. It's great to have that kind of creativity, and I love that people do it. I love that they take the material. They'll even mix other things in there to make it all work. I love that they convert it to 5e because they love things so much. I like that other writers like Kobold Press do their own campaign material because everything is so rich that you can add just from the Paizo books and make your own. So keep this in mind as you go into this, and I think give it at least a whirl and see what you think. Try converting and making those paths yours and really running them in the realms because they'll tie in really well with where they've set them. I think that's it. Again, it's a long diatribe on it, but I really enjoy it, and so I could spend hours talking about it. I hope you guys have a great weekend. For those that are celebrating the 4th of July, please enjoy it and please be safe doing it. For those that don't have the holiday, when your Independence Days come up, please enjoy yours and really enjoy the family and the freedoms that you have. And I hope that you have a tremendous week of gaming. Take care, and we'll talk to you again soon.